Well, hi everybody, welcome to Afterburner. I'm Bill Woodall. You know, I had a remarkable experience a few days ago. It really opened my eyes to something I think is really important in these days of unprecedented political division and rancor. Now, 2014 is an election year, obviously, and conservatives like myself have been fighting for 5 long years now against the ever-growing intrusion of government into every aspect of our lives. It's our position, and I think it is a spectacularly well-evidenced and well-supported one, that the government is generally very poor at providing goods and services for several reasons, and therefore, the less the government touches the lives of the people, the happier most people will be. Now, the clearest example is one of the most recent. In the days of the Soviet Union, for example, all stores were run by the government. People used to stand in line outdoors in the Moscow winter for hours on end to get into a government store to find out that there was essentially nothing on the shelves and to argue over the privilege of taking home the scraps. It was miserable, and the customers were miserable. And the people standing behind the counters were surly and vindictive, almost beyond human comprehension. You know, when the first McDonald's came to Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union, an American executive sent to train the Russian employees talked incessantly about the need to be smiling and friendly and cooperative at all times. And one of the Russians replied, "Why do we need to be nice? We have the hamburgers." I mean, that's really the problem, right? When people like me talk about our interaction with the government, I talk about the post office, the passport office, the DMV, and traffic court. How are those experiences for you? Have you had a good time over there, do you? Or do you find again and again and again that there are endless lines, minimal staff, horrid lack of organization where you have to wait in one line for hours to get a form and then you have to wait in another line to pay for whatever you went there for in the first place, that kind of thing. And since things like driver's licenses and passports and traffic tickets are not voluntary purchases on our part, but rather essential items that we simply must have in order to function in modern society, there's no need for the government to sell us on the idea of going down there or to make the shopping experience enjoyable. We have to be there, and both they and we know it. Ultimately, when you get right down to it, they don't have to be nice to us because they have the hamburgers and we don't. But that's really not the point I wanted to make today, because a few days ago, I had to take about 80 packages to the United States Postal Service office in Sherman Oaks, California. And since I was so new to being a small businessman, I had labeled each of these 80-plus items, but not with the online software that meters the mail and bills your credit card, so you can just drop it off. No. I had to stand there and have a man weigh and meter one by one, every single one of them, and it took about an hour. But here's what's remarkable about the post office, at least in Sherman Oaks, California. First of all, every teller position was manned. I'd never seen that in a post office before. There was even a rover who went around asking people if they needed help. I nearly contracted the vapors and fainted dead away. And as the man behind the counter steadfastly just chewed through this mountain of work that I'd given to him, I said to him and to the people in line, "Look, I'm terribly sorry. It's not that I'm inconsiderate. I'm just merely incredibly stupid." But the line kept moving, and since it was late in the day, they closed the doors, worked through the line, and then the rest of the tellers each divided up the last of the packages I had, and I stood there, the only customer in a United States post office, and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me for saying this, but I've been coming to post offices for almost 50 years now, and I have never been waited on by 4 people at the same time. I'm terribly sorry for keeping you so late." And they laughed and they smiled, and they were as nice as they could be. And I wanted to tip the guy who'd done the bulk of the work. It was at least 50 individual packages. So I said, "Hey, is there kind of a coffee fund or a donut fund that I could contribute to?" And they smiled and thanked me and said, "No, don't worry about it, thanks." And out I went. And as my associate and I were walking out to the car, she said, "I will never think of the post office the same way again." And I said, "I agree." So, as we gear up for another round of our fight against the state, I just thought it would bear mentioning to say that while I don't like the government for its built-in inefficiencies, its monopoly on certain services, and the general sense of arrogance about who's working for whom, we can't forget that many, if not most of the people working for Leviathan are in many cases doing the best that they can, and in all cases are our fellow citizens and actual human beings. As a person who's been demonized for his political beliefs, that lesson in fundamental humanity was not lost on me that day, and hopefully it's something that you may want to keep in mind as well as we struggle to put this giant state back into the government-sized box it originally came in.